Performance crossovers are a bit of a controversial topic in the enthusiast community. On one hand, you can't deny the fact that they're practical, they're efficient for day-to-day use, and they're a better bang for your buck over a coupe and sedan. But then on the other hand, it's still a crossover at the end of the day. Everyone owns a crossover. All you get out of performance vehicles is a sports suspension and also a better engine. But there's a lot more to these crossovers than meets the eye. You have the Lamborghini Urus, BMW X5, Aston Martin DBX 707, the list just goes on. And more importantly today, we have the 2025 Audi SQ5. Now, for this particular segment and price range between $60,000 and $80,000, you're going to have vehicles like the BMW X3 M50 and Porsche Macan, which yes, are very popular, and the Audi SQ5 was a great upgrade over a Q5 in regards to performance. But now for this generation, for the B10, there's a lot more to this crossover than meets the eye, and today I want to find out if the SQ5 is the best crossover you can buy in this price range. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Audi of Peabody in Peabody, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Audi SQ5 for the B10 generation. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Audi inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2025 Audi SQ5 we have today, this is the Premium Plus, coming in at just under $67,000. And much like with the B9.5, this will be the middle trim in the lineup between the Premium and the Prestige. This might be the go-to here, looking at what you have in regards to the creature comforts and amenities. But really though, for me, it's all about its design. That's why I've come back to check out the SQ5, because for some reason, I'm really drawn to it, more so than the Q5. I feel like with the Q5 for 2025 and the B10 generation, it looks too much like the Q6, taking away its attraction, taking away its luster, and not making it look quite unique in the lineup. Whereas the SQ5 can kind of be its own thing, which is why I'm beginning to feel the same way about the S5 as well, even though a lot of you have agreed with me that the A5 doesn't look as good as the B9.5. But what you have here for 2025, I think, is a good-looking vehicle, an aggressive-looking vehicle, thanks to the black optic package, which gives us some gloss black trim found throughout, and then also these massive 21-inch wheels, which from far away makes us look like a baby Lamborghini Urus or baby RSQ8, so that is not a bad thing at all. But I love the body lines of this crossover. I like the way everything makes sense for this generation and for this platform, because with the new Q5, SQ5, A5, and S5, it's built on Audi's new PPC platform. So no longer the MLB Evo platform, and you can kind of see that with the exterior appearance of this vehicle. So up front, you are going to receive full LED headlights and LED daytime running lights. And when you approach this vehicle at night or during the day, there will be an interactive light display for the Premium Plus, giving you a classy appearance to this crossover. Now for me, it's going to be the vents found up front that really draw my attention. I'm not going to call the front grille a honeycomb mesh grille, but it's still going to be a bit more enhanced than that Q5, and there will be an S badge on that grille letting you know this is going to be a fun daily driver. Then taking a look at the side air intakes, they are massive, they are huge. In a way, with the black optic package, this kind of looks like what an RSQ5 would look like if we ever got one here in the US. For the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to have more functional air intake, so a lot of cooling to that engine that is powering this beast. For me though, I do like the body lines. The body lines make a lot of sense for the SQ5. You find that on the hood, nice rounder front fascia too, and this is exactly what I thought was missing with the Q5. That has also helped out with the full paint finish, which again gives you more of a refined look to this crossover from far away, and I think also makes it look a bit more upscale as well. Then as you make your way over to the side profile, you're going to notice those 21-inch alloy wheels. The multi-spoke wheel design looks really cool here, and like I said before, it kind of reminds you of an RSQ8. Now some of you might be saying, all right, 21-inch wheels, it's going to create a lot more road noise, harshness to the ride quality. Well, for 2025, the air suspension is standard across all three trims for the SQ5. So you might not need to worry about that here. Also, it's an SQ5. It's meant to be a bit more rigid, a bit more aggressive and firm. So I think for a lot of you, if you're looking for a comfortable experience, stick with the Q5 for 2025. Also, much like we're seeing a lot now in the Audi product line, there will be a gloss black blade that runs the length of the side profile, which is a nice subtle touch here for this vehicle. You can have power folding gloss black side mirror caps with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. And then also you're going to have the gloss black trim outline the windows, giving you a lower profile appearance. Reminds me of the Porsche Macan, which some people are going to say that's blasphemy. That's sacrilege. How dare you say that? Even though the SQ5 is basically a distant cousin now being built on the PPC platform. But there's something Macan-like about its design with the sloping roofline, the way the rear fascia is rounded out, the light bar running the length of the rear fascia, which is very common now in the Audi product line. Everything comes together to make this look a lot more aggressive and dynamic than ever before. And also, compared to the Q5, it doesn't look e-tron-like. The fact you have the gloss black trim, the fact you have the quad exhaust tips here that are functional. That is one thing that Audi has actually fixed here and addressed. Those quad exhaust tips are functional. You have a crossover that looks the part and might actually play the part as well as being a dynamic sports crossover for 2025. And lastly, for the rear fascia, I know a lot of you are going to be focusing on this. We have that trailer hitch here, which is available. And with the SQ5 for 2025, you have a towing capacity of 4,400 pounds. So if you go to the track, maybe Lime Rock, Watkins Glen, VIR, you can tow a small car or tow a small RV. And that way, this vehicle is even more flexible. So it's fun to drive, but also very versatile as well. Powering the SQ5 for the B10 generation, you are going to have a 3-liter turbocharged V6 engine. That is right, no downsizing from the V9.5, thankfully, because Mercedes-Benz gives us a Turbo 4 in this market. However, with this engine, you are going to have 362 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque, and it's now paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. To put all of this into perspective, for one, you have a boost of 13 horsepower from last year. You also get a huge increase in torque. 406, and last year was 369. This is going to change up everything for the straight line speed of this model, now giving you a 0 to 60 time of around 4.5 seconds. So this is very competitive with the BMW X3 M50i. Also, last generation had a ZF 8-speed automatic, which was buttery smooth, but the 7-speed dual clutch might give us a bit more engagement. A lot to be excited about here for this model, especially since it is a V6. Now, on top of all of this, you also get air suspension, which is sports tuned, and that comes standard. Whereas last generation, that was part of the S Sport package. So right off the bat, even before you take this vehicle off the lot, this is going to be a crossover that's more tuned for enthusiastic driving, and we're going to talk about that later on during the test drive. Now, also, of course, you are going to have Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system for better year-round capability and versatility. But now let's talk about that fuel economy here with that V6. So for 2025, you are going to receive 19 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon on the highway, which is marginally better than last generation. Also, this engine is paired with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So mechanically speaking, there's a lot to be excited about, there's a lot to discuss, and also for those of you who have considered a BMW X3 M50 or a Porsche Macan, the Audi SQ5 is not a vehicle you should be overlooking. Hopping inside the Audi SQ5 we have today, we are greeted by power-adjustable heated leather trim seats with Dynamica inserts for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having 2-position memory for added convenience. Now, available for this trim and for the SQ5 in general, you can go with the full Napa leather upholstery, which would probably be a more ideal choice if you're looking for a sports-tuned luxury crossover. Whereas the model we have today is definitely more enthusiast-focused for sure. And the Dynamica inserts do match what you have on the door panels, the dashboard, and center console. It doesn't feel too different from the B9.5, which I am very thankful for. Now, in regards to the comfort for these seats, the bolstering isn't that aggressive. You know, you would probably experience more aggressiveness out of an RSQ5 if we got one here, but the support is really good. You're not swaying out of these seats at all when you are on a winding back road. Also, the plushness, support, and the comfort is exactly where it needs to be in this market when you are comparing it to a BMW BMW X3 M50 or Mercedes-Benz GLC 43. I think a lot of you are going to like this. Now, I was very concerned about the B10 because I thought Audi was going to go in a tech-focused direction and maybe leaning more towards a luxurious experience, because the B9.5 SQ5 I felt wasn't as dynamically tuned as the BMW X3 M40i last generation. However, I feel like Audi has doubled down here for the SQ5. You can just see it with the dashboard layout, the materials that Audi used. This is really giving me a lot of hope for what this model is going to be offering us when we do take it out on a quick test drive. Now, in front of you will be a flat-bottomed and flat-topped leather-wrapped steering wheel, which feels really nice in the hands, and it feels more natural being in the 9 and 3 positions more so than 10 and 2, and that will help out when you are rolling through the gears yourself with these paddle shifters for that 7-speed dual clutch. Now, just like we saw with the Q5, the A5, the technology is the exact same. You can have haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel to customize what you see for that digital gauge cluster. Now, I personally think that this digital gauge cluster isn't as in-depth as the B9.5. The Audi's virtual cockpit, to me, was legendary and is legendary, whereas this is a bit more straightforward. It's not as distracting, which I kind of understand why Audi did that, but you can configure it to your liking. You can showcase information that is relevant to you. Also, by going with the Premium Plus, you will have a head-up display, so that way you're not looking down at those screens. You have your digital speedometer and traffic sign recognition. Then taking a look at your infotainment system, of course, this is the Google-based software that I've kind of complained about in the past with the Q6, the Q5, and A5, but at some point you get used to it after a while. Now, with the Premium Plus, we do have the Bang & Olufsen sound system to amplify the audio of your favorite music. We have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. Mostly what you are going to be focusing on here is that, unlike with the B9.5, you don't have physical buttons on the dashboard anymore. So everything is now placed on the head unit for your dual zone climate control, heated front seats, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. And there will be a climate menu as well. So this is exactly what we're seeing now in a lot of products in this market, such as the BMW X3 M50. So this shouldn't be too much of a shock, but I think if you have owned a B9.5 before, you might want to take some time getting used to everything here. Now, obviously, you are going to have your onboard navigation system for a vehicle priced at $75,000 for the one we have today. And on the left side of the screen will be quick access icons, which will look at your different menus efficiently, such as your home screen, but then also a layout for all your widgets, for your navigation map, your radio, Sirius XM, phone, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, vehicle, driving assistance. All this is the exact same compared to the Q5 that we had taken a bit more of a deeper dive into this head unit, so I'm not going to go through all of this today, but at least everything is here and cleanly laid out. You're also going to have quick access icons for your navigation system, your radio, your Bluetooth connectivity, then of course your vehicle settings, and then also more general settings as well. You can scroll through all this on your own time and at your own discretion. I think the big learning curve, though, is going to be the fact that this isn't going to be the Audi's older MMI user interface, which I still loved to this day, and the Android-based software will take some time to get used to, so keep all of that in mind. Now, taking a look at the camera systems that you have here for the Premium Plus, you are going to have a rear backup camera with trajectory and also top view as well. But you're going to have other angles as well for your side view, so that way you're not scraping those wheels. You can also have a front-facing camera with trajectory as well. So a lot of visibility here with the SQ5 if you are backing out of tight spots or when you are parking on a city street. Continuing on, beneath the head unit, you are going to find a single row of haptic feedback buttons for your drive mode selector, your auto start-stop, your hazards, and traction control on and off. You're going to have your start-stop button and then a physical dial for the volume and tuning. Beneath that will be 2 USB-C inputs, a 12-volt outlet, a wireless phone charging pad. And for the center console itself, nothing different here at all compared to the Q5. You will have that gloss black trim, which is very common in this market. You can have 2 buttons here for your safety systems and camera settings to go along with your electronic parking brake, and then you have that gear shifter. Next to that will be 2 cup holders. Then for the standard storage compartment, it is decently sized. You can probably store a couple wallets, smartphones, or other smaller tech gadgets. And then to round out the front seating area, for our model, we have a power moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. And quickly taking a look at the second row, passengers are going to receive the exact same interior dimensions as the Q5 for 2025, which is 38 inches of legroom, which is very much on par with the BMW X3 M50, better than the Porsche Macan, and on par with the Mercedes-Benz GLC 43. This right here is where I think the Audi SQ5 makes a lot of sense, more so for this generation than the B9.5. That yes, with the B9.5, it was going to be a great choice if you had a family and you were an enthusiast. The B10 though, I think doubles down on all of that. And we're going to talk about this for the test drive because this new B10 is going to surprise you in more ways than one. As you guys know, it's practical, it's suitable, it's better than an S4, it's better than an S5. But I have a feeling that the interior dimensions are just one more step, one more incentive to pushing you into the crossover direction over buying a sedan. And that's just my take here. The seat isn't adjusted all the way back, nor is it on a recline, but I have plenty of legroom here, and also there's plenty of shoulder room. Now, just like I said with the Q5, I don't think you'd be squeezing in a third person in the center. In fact, with the SQ5, much like with the Q5 and for vehicles built on the PPC platform, this feels more like a Grand Tour. So you're not going to be able to squeeze in a third person in the center. Keep all of that in mind. But with the leather trim seats, with the Dynamica inserts, very comfortable, a lot of grip here, so your passengers will not be swaying around when you are on those winding back roads. Also back here, you will have two USB-C inputs to go along with two center-mounted air vents. You'll also have climate control as well. And then to round out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time to take a look at the rear cargo area. Obviously, by going with the SQ5, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right on 27.5 cubic feet of room, which is slightly better than the B9.5 generation the B10 is replacing. Now, this would be on par with the Mercedes-Benz GLC, also the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, and it's a bit less than the BMW X3, but that shouldn't be too much of a concern here because this vehicle is rather practical. And if you are going on a road trip with the family, maybe even going to the track here with the SQ5, there's enough space for 9, 10, 11 bags of luggage and maybe even some gear as well if you are going to that track. Also on both sides of the cargo area will be some cubbies for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. You're also going to find on the left side your buttons that will lower and raise the rear suspension, so that way when you are loading this vehicle up with heavy equipment, you're not scratching that rear bumper. Now, unfortunately, much like we saw with the Q5, and this is probably because this SQ5 is built on the PPC platform, you do not receive a spare tire, so keep all of that in mind. And then when the second row seats are folded, you're looking at right on 57 cubic feet of room, which is, once again, a little bit better than the B9.5. So practicality-wise, you have a crossover that is family-friendly, that is flexible, and very much in line with its closest rivals. Setting off on our first test drive with the all-new 2025 Audi SQ5 for the B10 generation, and there's a lot to digest here for this model. Yes, we have a new platform, the PPC chassis, which takes a lot of elements from the EV vehicles in the lineup. But you also have the S Sport package essentially coming standard here across all three trims. And that is going to make a world of a difference. Because for 2025, you can cross-shop a B9.5 and B10 because both are being sold simultaneously together side by side, which does create a bit of confusion here. But if you're someone looking for an enthusiast-focused crossover that is an alternative to a BMW X3 M50, the B10 is better set up to do all of that. Not only do you get better performance out of this 3-liter turbocharged V6, this 7-speed dual clutch gives this vehicle a lot more soul. And on top of all of this, with the air suspension coming standard, there's no body roll associated with this vehicle anymore, and it feels more dynamically tuned. And that is going to make a world of a difference in this market. I personally think the BMW X3 has kind of gone unchallenged for a long time in this market between $50,000 and $70,000. Now, some people will disagree with me on that, especially for Audi purists and Audi loyalists, saying, Mike, the SQ5 was better, had better technology, and it gave you the luxurious aspects you were looking for while also getting some performance at the end of the day. But I still think that for a lot of you that are enthusiasts would have gone in the Porsche Macan direction. Now I don't think that's necessary at all. This engine is incredible now. Close to 410 pound-feet of torque, and that is a huge increase from what you had for the B9.5 at 369. This model is torquey. It's fun, it's aggressive, it has a heart, it has a soul. And when you let off throttle, there's some crackles to the exhaust, which BMW got rid of. So Audi has kind of learned from their mistakes with the B9.5, and they have improved in more ways than one. Now, if you remember what I had to say about the Q5, I really didn't like the PPC platform because it felt very EV-like. It had that lower center of gravity, but without a sports tune suspension, there was something lacking. Well, we had the sports tune suspension, and now everything makes sense. And I have a feeling I wasn't giving the PPC platform a fair opportunity to change my mind, because I'm an MLB Evo fanboy, to be honest. But in this application, and I have a feeling it's going to be the exact same with the S5, this is set up perfectly. This is set up to be a vehicle that is going to be a true BMW X3 and BMW 3 Series competitor and fighter. And everything I complained about with the Q5, you can just throw out, because I like what we have here. The seat positioning here is a bit more on point with the SQ5. You feel like you're a bit more part of the chassis than the Q5. And also on top of this, you do sit a bit lower to the ground. And with all this in mind, I think you are going to have a vehicle that is going to reach the right buyer now. That if there was any concerns that B9.5 owners had about the B10, you can put all of it to rest. Even in these corners, it hugs the corners. This is great. It does feel Porsche Macan-like. And I don't know if that was done on purpose for the Volkswagen Audi brand, where the Macan's future is up in the air for the gas-powered model. But to save like $10,000, $20,000 by going with an SQ5 over a Porsche Macan, and a well-equipped Porsche Macan at that, I think the SQ5 makes a lot more sense. I'm really digging this vehicle. This is incredible. Also with the air suspension, when you go over the bumps and imperfections, there's none of that floaty sensation. You feel fully engaged with the driving experience, and you feel connected to the chassis, and you feel connected to the road. Everything I complained about with the B9.5 that didn't have the S Sport package, Audi has addressed here. And for $65,000, $70,000, it does make sense. Yes, you are paying a bit of a premium here. Yes, there has been a price increase. But at least this doesn't feel lacking compared to the B9.5. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of the technology. But for the driving experience, for the driving dynamics, so much better. Now, I will say, though, that Audi didn't address the steering input. It's still somewhat light. It is still somewhat vague. It's not as decently weighted as a BMW X3 M50. However, I don't think for a lot of buyers looking at purchasing an SQ5, that is going to be a make or break deal. That's what's going to force you to go in the BMW direction. I personally think, and this is controversial coming from me, I really like the 7-speed dual clutch here. When you're cruising around in the city and suburbs, it is buttery smooth, but when you're on throttle, you get a kickback in your seat, and it's aggressive. This doesn't feel like a passive experience. This doesn't feel like a quicker Q5. This is something very different. Now, compared to the Q5 for the B10 generation, a lot of your weight is focused for the center of the platform, where I feel like it's more evenly distributed here for the SQ5. That I don't feel like that there's all this weight beneath me, beneath my seat. It's now felt both up front and the rear, giving you that lower center of gravity. And that when you are in the corners, you're going to have that confidence. You're going to have the capability to have a lot of fun. I really, truly think Audi has done it right. Yes, I was one of those people that was concerned about the B10. Yes, I was one of those people that thought, oh, Audi's moving in the wrong direction. honestly, they did it right. They did everything right here. So all in all, after this very quick test drive, getting a small glimpse, a small taste of what this platform has to offer, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. The PPC platform makes sense here. Yes, I think the MLB Evo platform was better for the A5, the A4, Q5, but most certainly for their performance models, the PPC platform gives you the rigidity, the stiffness, the handling, the ride quality, everything that is going to make this a great buy in this market. A better choice over a Mercedes-Benz GLC 43. Potentially a great alternative to a BMW X3 M50i. I don't want to say it's a bargain because this model is $75,000. But if you're someone who doesn't want to go all out for a Porsche Macan, or it's just a bit too out of reach, the SQ5 for 2025 and the B10 generation feels a lot more like an attainable Porsche Macan that I think is going to draw in a lot of buyers. Put aside all the loyalties you had with the B9.5, put aside all the loyalties you have with the MLB Evo platform, and give the B10 a chance. That's all I'm asking. Give it a chance like I did today, because this is very surprising. This is very, very surprising. And it's a stark difference from the Q5 that I had featured a couple of weeks ago. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2025 Audi SQ5. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys next time.